Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have a very rare game to share with you. This was played at Chess.com's Computer Chess Championship 21, a round 1 semifinal game between Stockfish on the white end, rated 3862, and Leela Chess Zero, rated 3822. Time controls, 10 minutes with a 3-second increment. Okay, what makes this game so rare? Well, not every day Stockfish loses with white. This was played just the other day, September 25th. As is the usual case with these Computer Chess Championship games, the game begins from a specific position out of the opening. The opening we're working with, Sicilian Rossolimo. A very lengthy game ahead, 115 moves. So as you might expect, there's a lot of maneuvering with this game. This here is our start position. The first move of this game is a4. White wants the knight on c4 without being bothered. Development, attack, in defense, attack, defense, and now more space for white, this time on the king side. Early on, we could note the rook pawns trying to cramp black. The game continues with queen g6. If you try b5 here, that wouldn't be good for two reasons. 1 and 2. Okay, d5 is a hole here. Queen g6. White avoids the queen exchange. Black continues to maneuver the knight to this ideal square, tucked right behind the e-pawn. h5, queen f6, and now white pursues the queen exchange, and black avoids it. If black initiates the exchange here, the knight can't get to e6. So, queen e7 it is, development, defense, so that the knight can next go to e6. g3, kingside castles, no sides castles for white. He's cozy here, right in the center. The rooks are connected because of this last move. Why not castle? If white castles, white demotes a rook. White kind of says if you want to go for a pawn break one day with the b or g pawn, you're going to have to deal with my rook. One of the rooks will spring to life. Okay, black hops in, forces the bishop for knight exchange. So now we work with this imbalance, knight versus bishop. We can note some space for each side, space for black in the center, and white on the wings. Where does white go wrong in this game is really the big question. The follow-up here, rook e8. Now, I wondered about this move here. Why does black not take on c2? A couple things can happen if queen takes c2. One, white gets a lot of activity on the queen side, even the king side. Or there could even be a queen trap. So let me highlight first this activity I speak of. b4 is the follow-up if queen takes on c2. Bishop d6, rook b1. Black can pick up this second pawn, but here's the activity I'm speaking of. Queen on e6, pinning the rook. The rook's doubled on the b file, and now if c5 or bishop takes pawn here, there can follow knight c4, looking next at knight d6. Once the knight moves, white is already threatening to smash through, eliminating the 2-point pawn, the b pawn. I also want to highlight the queen trap, a really cool queen trap after queen takes c2. It's a queen trap that's only possible if white uses every piece. It's going to require every white piece in order to trap the black queen. So how does this look? Something like this. Let's say in this position, black doesn't take on b4 and instead flicks in this flight square, h6. Here's the queen trap. Rook b3 kicks the queen away from the b4 point, and now the queen comes back here, securing this so that this maneuver is possible. You ready? Rook b1, And here we go. As mentioned, every white piece required to trap the queen. King goes to d1, supporting rook c1. She's trapped at this point. If you take the b pawn, rook c1, she's dead. And if you don't take the b pawn, rook b3, the queen is trapped. Okay. Poison c pawn. In the game, rook e8, rook a3, queen e7, rook b3. Pop quiz. How would you respond to this last move? Feel free to pause the video. Okay. Move played here, bishop d6. The evaluation at this point is around 0.7. I'm running with Stockfish 16. Rook b3 is a problem. Now, what's happening with bishop d6? Well, first of all, b7 is defended. But the bigger problem here for white is that this rook is now stuck. The bishop cuts off exit squares from this guy. So there's no other safe square for this piece. We have a case where this rook is now trapped. He's stuck on the b3 square. So what's the approach here? How do you win the rook? Can you spot the continuation that wins the rook? You really can't. The approach here by black, I'm going to try to summarize what the general approach is going to be. The first is to find a convenient setup that maintains the trap. Now, when I say convenient, I have something specific in mind. And that is to allocate a piece to restricting the rook, to keep the rook trapped. The bishop, in other words, a piece that's worth less than the rook. That's one. Another one is black's going to try to optimize the pieces for flexibility. Third, black's going to try to create one or more pawn breaks to open the position so that those flexible pieces can flourish, can easily shift from the king side to the queen side or vice versa. Essentially, black is treating this position as you would if up the exchange. The bishop restricts the rook. And if we kind of offset other pieces, rook for queen, we have a case where it's rook versus knight. Okay, this is going to take effort. It's going to take quite a while before we could win the rook here. But that's the general approach black takes. Okay, knight f3. First phase here for black, a changing of the guard. Black does not want to have the queen here responsible for defending the b pawn. It's going to be the bishop that has that responsibility now. There we go. The bishop and 3 pawns restrict the rook, and we might as well say the b pawn. If the rook can't move, the b pawn can't move. Okay. White starts to generate a threat here or there on the king side. These threats are easily parried. So right here, there's a one-move threat when we get out of the pin on the G file. And it's taking white, what we're seeing here on the king side, it takes white a couple moves to generate a threat and only one defensive move by black to parry it. So no progress is really being made by white. The threat here is knight g6. And if you capture, you're going to end up getting mated on h7. So there's this fork idea. Black is out of that. So now if the knight hops in here, you simply move the king. All right. Queen f5, king g8, c3. So now here's another thing you can think about as soon as c3 is in there. And that is the trapped rook is now an unprotected rook as well. So watch how quick black gets into position so that black is within striking distance of the rook. You ready? Rook e7. Paving the way for queen f7. Pressure on the rook. This already forces white on the defensive. This knight says, I gotta go here so that I could get to d2 in time to defend my rook. Now, one thing I wondered about here is now that the rook is on e7, and f6 is not supported by a pawn, what happens if h6, breaking down this structure? This would not be good for white. Black could reply with g6, and if queen takes pawn, look at the activity black has here. Queen e6, targeting the rook, c4, and check this out. Bishop takes knight, queen g4. The writing is on the wall here. All black pieces are going to be at the white king soon enough. Not a good approach here to flick in h6. In the game, knight f3, queen f7, knight d2, just in time to defend the rook. Black reinforces this center point. I should note that if white ever captures on this square, the way to recapture is with the pawn, maintaining control over c3 with the pawn. All right, queen g4, b5, met with c4, and we defend the b pawn with the rook. Now, if black can make several moves in a row, you would like to get in b4, move the bishop out of the way, and then play c5. This would be an even more convenient arrangement for black. Now, it's just two pawns that restrict the rook. We don't even need this bishop around anymore. Okay, the problem with playing b4 here is that this rook can bother the bishop. So if the bishop goes here, rook a6 is a problem. It's a problem here, problem there. And if you go here, c5 hits, and this rook will soon be rescued. This guy will be won soon enough. Okay, not a good idea for b4. That's why defense of the b pawn with the rook that's no longer needed. It went here to reinforce the center point, but now it's rock solid. Now that the c pawn has advanced, releasing the pressure on d4. And these guys stay trained along the 7th rank. Okay, we have the exchange. Rook a6 is the follow-up. If rook here, rook there, securing the point. Rook a6 here. And now b4. So there we have it, another changing of the guard. Black does not want to have this rook responsible for babysitting the b pawn. It's the bishop who has that responsibility. Now, there's some cost connected with this move, and that is the c4 square is now opened up for the knight. Okay. The main thing here, the bishop is going to be the most convenient defender of b4. From here, knight c4, rook a7, rook c6, rook c7, rook a6, king move for each side. Get the flight square in for black. Maneuvering the queen now. She sticks around here, tries to get rid of this rook. The rook goes back to a1 in this position. If the rook goes here, black can fall back to f8, defending against any possible sacrifices on the king side. And right around the corner for black would be queen a4, targeting the rook. And if the knight goes back here to defend, that would be short-lived. Rook c2, capture the knight, and next, the queen could capture the rook. So, in playing rook a1, white defends against queen a4. Okay. Regrouping. Let's see. Queen is excellent on c6, opposite the king. Also supporting rook to a8, contesting the opened a file. Queen goes back home, rook a8, rook b1, and now rook e8, supporting this pawn here so that this is a possible pawn break. Now, in the game, queen f3 is played. If g4 is played here, trying to prevent this advance, there is still one pawn break in the position. g6 is the top move here, with the idea to next scoop up the g-pawn and then shoot for one of two pawn breaks. Okay, in this game, though, it's queen f3, and now, still, comes f5 break. Excellent move here with the f-pawn. What are white's options now? If white captures on f5, The queen is now out of position to defend the trapped rook. She's now 2 moves away. She can't get to d1 in 1 move. So if queen takes f5 here, queen a4 would follow. And knight d2, we saw this already. I highlighted this. Rook c2, rook takes knight, queen takes rook. Black wins material. The other way to capture is met with e4, and this will win the knight. What do you do? Capture here, there goes the knight. If you move the queen away, pawn takes pawn, discovered check, and this knight is won next. So, don't take the f-pawn, it's poison. In the game, rook e1, and now queen a4, queen d1, and before this rook could maybe take up this excellent post on e4 and begin to coordinate with white's best piece, I guess, this knight on c4, black shuts down the e-file, continues to advance with the f-pawn. White tries to keep things closed, but now another excellent move coming up. Really, 3 excellent moves, all by the f-pawn in this game. f3. Star move here. It's preventing white from keeping the position closed. Black's pitching a pawn for what reason exactly? Well, black now has access to a base point on white's king side. I'm talking about this f-pawn. The f-file is now opened. So we're going to see the major pieces soon be stacked on the f-file. Additionally, without an f-pawn around, this diagonal right here is opened for the bishop. Now, how does that maybe play a role? Well, those lines that I highlighted here, where the knight sometimes goes to d2 to defend the rook, well, the bishop can now question the knight, can be in a spot to eliminate the knight so that the rook is more vulnerable. Okay. This f3 move, in short, is not just about an opened f-file, but an opened diagonal. All right. Rook e6, more regrouping. King goes back, king goes back. Let's see. Keep the queens on. Queen is perfect here on d7, defending both rooks, eyeing up g4, knight c4. Gains control over the open file now with rook a7. And now we go on the g-file. Keeps the queen honest, has to defend the rook. Bishop on g5. Rook c3. We're not taking the queen here because the rook would be rescued, so you just move the queen out of the way, and you have to go back to your trapped square. Nice try. Okay, rook a6, rook f7, rook b1. I really like this move here. The queen is perfect working from afar, watching over e5 and b4. Can easily shift to the queen side, to the king side in a blink. We could soon have all major pieces stacked on the f-file. Queen e2. Bishop coming back here. Okay, we need some more defense. Fine. There we go. Because of that earlier pawn sacrifice, white now feels the pressure on the f-pawn. Okay. So, how to defend? The knight has to go back to d2. And now rook to f4. So this is a little bit of a curious move. I wondered about this one. Black is already aiming for this pawn break and wants to have the queen there to recapture. So the rook is getting out of the way. Gets out of the way for this to happen here. Here we go. Queen e6. Some pressure on the rook still. And in comes the break. g6. Now, how do you react to this in the game? Pawn takes pawn. I wondered about this move here. Queen h2. In a spot to meet the capture with the recapture. If you play in this way, black can capture on f3. And after knight takes rook, rook takes knight, there's two big problems, and white cannot address both. Okay, in the game, it's pawn takes pawn, queen takes pawn, a successful pawn break, number 1. And number 2, right around the corner, this guy still stuck through it all. So we're rearranging the pieces now. The rook comes back, the G file. Black now has the G file in mind. Coming up, here we go, another pawn break. This guy just has to watch all the while. Queen H2. If you capture the pawn, it's going to be a mate, actually. Queen takes pawn, queen takes queen. That's a nice mate. So, this guy's poison. Queen H2. Triple trouble on the G file. What's tried here? F4. Pawn takes, knight F3. The queen now babysits this pawn because this guy has to defend against G5. There we go. We get the capture. And now an imbalance. Queen versus 2 rooks. In these imbalances, queen versus 2 rooks, what do you want to have if you're the side with 2 rooks? Coordination. How do you get coordinated with this guy here? Not happening. Okay. Let's see the mopping up phase here. We're soon going to have this rook 1. And this move here, when I saw king to e8, I thought to myself, you know what isn't out of the question at this stage? The king making a beeline for the a4 square, targeting the rook. Yeah, okay. In the game, it's rook f3, queen e1, targeting both rooks, pinning the knight. Doesn't get too much more active than that. And finally, it only took, 68 moves? There goes the trapped rook. Okay. Completely winning from here. A bit interesting how the conversion, how this is converted. We end up seeing a couple pawn promotions just giving away the queens like this. I don't know why exactly. Any explanation on this one? Just wants to keep it super simple. Okay. Another queen sack there. And we end up just having mate with the queen and bishop. 115 moves. What'd you think of this one? Anyhow, feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.